Once again, welcome you to our conference. Let me hand over to Ashton so that he talks to you about downloading the app so that you can access the information for the conference as well as the program.
Good afternoon, everybody. If you wouldn't mind just showing the presentation, please, on the screen. So for this year's conference, we've got the Hoover app. There we go. Next slide, please. So we've got the Hoover app. You're welcome to scan the QR code that's on the screen. For those of you who are battling to access it, you can also use the unique invitation code. It is Student Success, and that is being shown at the bottom over there. You would have also received numerous emails about this as well from myself, so please have a look at your emails, although for some of you those emails have been blocked by your institution. So if you did encounter that, please download the app now, scan the QR code. It's the 2026 Siyaphumelela conference, and the invitation code, especially if you are not getting your verification emails, you're welcome to use your Gmail account and use Student Success as the invitation code. And through that, you're able to personalize the agenda. You're also able to receive any event updates and notifications. You're able to interact with other delegates. I'll be showing you how to use the QR code that everybody has on their name tags a little bit later. And you're also able to access the floor map, because this is a very big venue and some of you might have a bit of challenges finding the different venues for the parallel sessions. But I'll be explaining that to you tomorrow. Next slide, please. So, for this session, we're going to be using the Hoover app for you to do your questions. So all of the questions can go through the Hoover app, and we will then be sharing it with the chair, who will be asking the questions. So in order to do your questions, you would first log in. You would select the opening plenary, right? Next button. Yes. So you would click on your session. You would then click Q&A, and then you click Ask a Question. Okay, so once you're in the app on your mobile phone, you click the session, which is the opening plenary session. Then you click Q&A, and then you click Ask a Question, and you type your question in the app. And it's as simple as that. Okay. And then our last slide, Ephraim. So in terms of the uploading of presentations, Ephraim, if you just want to finish.
Thank you, Ashton. So we need to have all presentations in the relevant parallel rooms in advance so that we can save time and people have enough time to make their presentations. So you check the rooms where you're going to present, and you send your presentations using those email addresses. Okay? Please make sure you do that in advance. We do not like to start saving presentations on computers in rooms when you are supposed to be presenting already. It wastes time. Please do send your presentations in advance to the relevant rooms using those email addresses. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. And then we'd like to welcome to the stage Innocent and Bill. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, yeah. So I would have come up to the stage to my favorite stage walk song. Someone reminded me about that earlier on, but unfortunately the item I'm starting with was not going to connect well with that, so I decided not to do that. And that's because I would like to invite us to start with a moment of silence in honor of 4 colleagues, true lifelong champions of student success and leaders in education who were with us at the 2025 Siyaphumelela conference, but unfortunately, in between, they passed on, and so they are not with us today. And those colleagues, so it's Dr. Jenny Glennie, Dr. Liz Langer, Dr. Diana Ferris, and Prof. Tandy Macha Erasmus, the VC of Sefako Makato, as you might also by now all heard. She passed on the 17th most recently. So may we please start by observing a moment of silence in tribute to those four colleagues. All right, thank you very much. And as you know, in the program, we will be honoring them more later tonight at the conference reception. Although it's leading with Jenny, but we will be honoring all these colleagues who were true champions of student success. That having been said, all the four of them would have wanted me to move on now into the program to start by acknowledging people in the room. And I always go counter protocol. Instead of starting by acknowledging the most senior people, I think in this event, the most senior people is our students and Siyaphumelela scholars.
Recording in progress.
So can our students and scholars please stand up and let's see them. Our students and scholars. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are here because of you, and only because of you. If it wasn't you, we wouldn't be here at all. But let me proceed to then also acknowledge then the Vice Chancellors and Deputy Vice Chancellors from our 26 public universities, Siyaphumelela institutional leads and coaches, the principals from TVET colleges who are in the room, Chief Director, Mr. Philip Chawalala, the Department of Higher Education and Training, Ms. Nadia Starr, CEO of SAQA, Dr. Peter Mbati, Senior Director at USAF, Dr. Wongiwe Hobololo from the Council on Higher Education, our Siyaphumelela funding partners, Mr. Bill Moses, standing here with me, and Ms. Sontil Jenkins, trustee at Kresge, Ms. Leonie Sampson from the Old Mutual Education Trust, other funders and strategic partners are too numerous for me to mention here. Dr. Karen Stout, President and CEO of Achieving the Dream, who will be our keynote this afternoon. Prof. Ahmed Bawa, who will also be our moderator this afternoon, but is also the chairperson of the Saidi Board of Trustees. And fellow trustees, Mr. Holly Clarkson, Prof. Mary Metcalf, Prof. Mary Oko, and Prof. Tawam Sibi. Saidi staff, and all delegates joining us in person and online today. Welcome to the 2026 Siyaphumelela Conference, and thank you for making the long journeys from the different parts of the country. And indeed, we also have delegates from the different parts of the world, the Americas, New Zealand, and far-flung. This year's theme is, again, reimagining student success and expanding opportunity for all. We intentionally chose to retain the theme from last year because for us, it remains the core agenda. It's still unfinished business. Over the past 12 years, and thanks in part to the support of our funding partners, Kresge, more than 240 million has been invested in Siyaphumelela, and this has helped to shift student success from the margins of institutional priorities to the center of institutional culture. It has also strengthened the use of data and evidence to inform decision-making and action, and most importantly, to center student voice and participation. There have been substantial gains in student outcomes, particularly. For example, just to mention a few, we have seen institutions recording first-year retention rates upwards of 90%, and throughput gains ranging from 10 to 23%, including significant increases in African students successfully completing their studies in minimum time. Yesterday afternoon, we convened as a pre-event, as a prelude to this conference, the Siyaphumelela Leadership Forum, a gathering of the senior leaders, VCs and DVCs and other senior institutional leaders to reflect on these gains and start shaping the vision and agenda for the next chapter of Siyaphumelela. If anything at all, the conversation reminded us of one thing, and that one thing is that the work that Siyaphumelela started 12 years ago is not yet finished. The progress we have made is real, but it's also hard-won. We have fought for that. But without stewardship, the gains can be easily lost. So this afternoon, I wanted to put 3 challenges before you for the coming 4 days. The first challenge is, how do we sustain the gains and momentum from the past 12 years? Because we can't assume that it will sustain itself. If we assume that, that's really counter to Newton's laws of motion. A body in motion will come to a stop at some point unless another force brings it to a stop. And so our responsibility is to make sure that this body in motion in the form of Siyaphumelela doesn't come to a stop. We cannot allow Siyaphumelela to become a decade of promise that peaks too soon. We must continue this work without losing the momentum that made it successful in the first place. And here's the second challenge. How do we enable equitable access and success in the face of rising student need and the pressure that we are seeing in the PSET system? Too many students still arrive at our institutions carrying the burdens that they didn't create. This includes unequal schooling, financial instability, hunger, housing instability, poor mental health support, digital exclusion, amongst many others. And as if this is enough, when they get into our institutions, they find themselves navigating the search for solutions on their own. We must remind ourselves that access is more than just getting students through the doors. It's about giving them a fair chance to succeed once they are inside. Access without success is just access to struggling. And now most recently, those of you who have been following Stats essays, published the reports, Stats essay just published some very hard truths that we have to engage with. Graduate unemployment is up to about 13%. But this is more so worrying in a broad space where the overall unemployment rate in the country is 32%. Amongst the 15 to 35-year-olds, it's 46%. And even more scaring, amongst the 15 to 24-year-olds, it's 60%. Those are really staggering truths. Our institutions must do more to prepare young people for this changing world of work, for entrepreneurship, and for meaningful participation in the economy and society. So these are the 3 challenges I would like to leave, to put to you for this week. Just a quick recap. How do we sustain Siyaphumelela's gains? How do we deepen equitable success to make sure that we're not just opening those doors, but we're guiding the students
Recording in
once they are
progress.
inside the corridor? And most importantly of all, how do we ensure that our institutions do not become unemployment waiting rooms for our young people? From the past 2 days of engagement, another phrase that has been used is, how do we make sure that we don't graduate our young people into poverty? And now we're extending into unemployment. So my hope is that over the next few days, this conference will help us engage honestly, openly, candidly, critically with these questions. and sharpen our collective agenda for the next phase of Siyaphumelela. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you do every day. We know that you are at the coal faces, especially the institutions. We can only be here because of you. And thank you for helping to shape the past journey of Siyaphumelela and now to shape the next journey of Siyaphumelela. And so I would now like to welcome alongside me Mr. Bill Moses from the Kresge Foundation. Bill is the Managing Director of Education at the Kresge Foundation, where he leads the foundation strategy and grant making to advance post-secondary access, success, and economic mobility for low-income, first-generation and underrepresented students in the United States and internationally. A key architect of Kresge's education portfolio, Bill has played a pivotal role in shaping the foundation's investments in higher education and has led its grant-making efforts in South Africa for more than 2 decades. Prior to joining Kresge, he held leadership roles at the Thomas J. Watson Foundation, the Investor Responsibility Research Center, and TechnoServe, and served in a range of public positions, including at the US Embassy of Cape Town. Bill, welcome. By the way, I'm just the CEO of SAIDI, nothing more.
Thank you, Innocent, and thank you for being the CEO of SAIDI. Also, in addition to Innocent, I want to thank all of the SAIDI staff, particularly Innocent, Ashton, Ephraim, Alice, Maureen, and Umbelela. I also would like to introduce, she's not quite here, she had something she had to do, she's coming back, Santil Jenkins, who is a Kresge trustee. And when she gets here, I hope if you see her, please do introduce yourself and tell her what you think of the work you've been doing in student success. I also want to thank all of our partners and all of you for taking time out of your busy days working at the coalface, as Innocent said, trying to improve student success. And we hope you find the next couple of days a worthwhile use of that time to improve student success on your campuses or in your organizations. I also, of course, want to thank DHET and the leadership at DHET for your great support of student success and Siyaphumelela. Finally, I'd like to thank Karen Stout, who will be zooming in from, I assume, Philadelphia, but maybe Washington, D.C. Later today. In case you don't know Kresge, Kresge is a century-old private foundation based in Detroit, Michigan in the United States that aims to benefit mankind. And while we almost exclusively work in the United States domestically, we have a small international program, and that is the program you're part of right here today, Siyaphumelela. As you know, when we partnered with SAIDI and 5 universities in 2014 to create Siyaphumelela, student success was a problem, not yet a priority for most universities. Working with all of you in this room and many others who've come and gone over the years, we have helped to make student success a priority, and students, institutions, and the nation as a whole are better off. We're now at the midpoint of Siyaphumelela 3.0, which started in 2024 and now has 20 institutions as part of it. We held a leadership meeting yesterday and where we talked with senior university leaders, and a breakfast roundtable today. We also talked with a diverse group of South African funders. And it was really interesting for them, I think, to hear some of the things that you have been doing for the last several years. And I think many of them weren't quite aware that there was something as comprehensive and as collaborative as Siyaphumelela. So one thing I would tell you to do is, when you get a chance to be in a room with funders or you're talking with your advancement team at your university, let them know that this work is going on, because I was surprised. Some of the funders, some of the private funders had never really heard of us. The DHET more than heard of us. They were really very kind today. But for some of the private ones, it was new, I think, for some of them. But what we did was we discussed Siyaphumelela's current vision, successes, and lessons learned. And many of the challenges that we're addressing today are rooted in the systemic destruction of South Africa's education system during Bantu education. And at Kresge, we think the answer to that systemic undermining of education of South Africa is to, in fact, respond to it with a systemic approach, to get away from small boutique approaches and to really focus on what you can do across your institutions and what we can do collectively across the country. And that means, of course, scaling evidence-based interventions and solutions that you have learned to realize really work. Over the next few days, I hope that you're going to share your successes and your challenges and failures with your colleagues so that they can all learn from what you've learned and do an even better job when they hear about this great idea that they'd like to try on their campus. Try to meet as many people as you can, not just from your university, but across the country. Compare notes and take advantage of the network that this has created to improve student success. And think how you can sustain student success within your institution and within the network going forward. Think about what else we can do to make student success not only more deeply embedded in the country and in your institution, but also what else there may be that we could be doing to improve student success. Finally, you're going to hear about a lot of successes and a few failures over the next 3 days, but don't forget that every statistic you hear about is about a real person, and you're in a position to make a positive difference in so many lives. Your creativity, commitment, passion, and collaboration with colleagues within your institution and across South Africa is how we move from those small boutique programs to lasting systemic change that benefits everyone. Thank you so much for the hard work you do every day on behalf of our students and on behalf of South Africa. You make me proud every day, and just thank you. I hope you have a wonderful conference.
Thanks, Bill. So this is the time we're supposed to declare the party open, to cut the ribbon. I don't know where, there's no door for us to open.
A ribbon to cut.
Yeah, or a ribbon to cut. So I think we just got a readiness to say it gives us pleasure, Bill and I, to declare the conference open. And yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All right, so before I hand over, so just gonna take a moment to once again introduce Prof. Ahmed Bawa, who will be the moderator for the panel conversation with the keynotes this afternoon. Prof. Bawa is well known to most of you. He was the second Vice Chancellor and Principal of the Durban University of Technology. He was the CEO of USAF University, South Africa, and most recently Emeritus Professor at the University of Johannesburg. He's a well-known contributor and leader in our higher education space. And so we are so privileged to have you, Prof, today. But before he comes up stage, Ashton is going to take us through, in a short moment, the next part of the program. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And talking about being upstage, we are about to be upstaged by our 2026 Siyaphumelela scholars. This year we have 8 scholars, and they'll be presenting during each of the plenary sessions across the next 4 days of the conference. So I would like to welcome our first Siyaphumelela scholar to the stage, Thandeka Tembo. Thandeka Tembo is studying a Bachelor's of Education Honours in Curriculum Studies at Sol Plaatje University. Thandeka is someone who believes in the transformative power of education, perseverance, and purpose, guided by curiosity and a desire to make a difference. Thandeka embraces opportunities to learn, grow, and support others on their journeys. Thandeka's experiences have taught them the value of resilience, and they carry those lessons with them as they continue to become the person and the teacher they aspire to be. Let's give Thandeka a warm round of applause.
Yes. Okay. Green button.
I am a seed carried by the wind, planted in the, I am a seed planted. Oh no. I am a seed carried by the wind, planted in the soils of Kimberley's plains. I rose through storms, discovering how my roots are holding me through ever-changing weather. Losing my parents at a young age, a shadow cast over my early days. Yet even in darkness, hope took root. A quiet promise to find my ways through the haze, raised by my aunt whose sacrifices led the way. Her love, a beacon still guiding each step I take. On the hardest days, hope still blooming. A fragile flower pushing through the cracks of clay. Through seasons of struggle, carrying doubt's weight. Each scar held a story. Each fall left a mark. Wisdom gathered quietly, like dust settling after another sandstorm. A knowing in the dark. Witnessing my family carry so much unspoken, I began to measure strength in ordinary things. Early mornings, tired hands, another meal placed on the table. In lecture halls, libraries, and late-night pages. Sisi, I cannot study. I need to hear your voice. The first in my family to earn a degree. The map of our future changing through me. Like sunrise breaking through the horizon, I stepped forward, seeing further, open to wilder dreams. Encouraged by distinctions, a Dean's Merit Award. Opportunities to lead. Those opportunities marking the footprints that I traveled. A peer advisor, tutor. I came to understand my place, the destiny in my future, not walking ahead of others, but carrying a light, walking beside them. I am still becoming. The dusty plains that first held me are written in my roots. And I know those ever-changing winds are not done with me yet. I am the unspoken blossoming. Thank you.
Very well done. And it takes a huge amount of bravery to be the first scholar to present in the plenary session. Well done. Thanks. So we move on to the next part of our plenary, and I'd like to invite Ahmed to the stage.
Yes. In the meantime, let me.
That's great. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here as chair of SAIDI, but also as part of this community. And I just want to say a special welcome to visitors who've come to us from other shores, but also people who've come from other parts of the country. Sorry about the weather. Joburg's performance has been just slightly worse than Bafana Bafana's. It's wonderful to see that there are some old faces, Francois Strydom and a few others, but there are many, many new faces, and that's a sign that of the success of Siyaphumelela. And I think, one can feel reassured that we are on a good path as we head into the future. It's a sign, in fact, that Siyaphumelela has now become a firm part of the South African higher education landscape, and that's so important. It's the first conference without Jenny Glennie. At SAIDI, we miss her tremendously, but I think we can all say that her passion and her dedication and her commitment just shine through this conference today. And we really have to just remind ourselves of her contribution to Siyaphumelela and to higher education more generally. We had asked Minister Buti Manamela to make the keynote address today, and until 2 days ago, I was in regular contact with him. He was going to come. Unfortunately, Parliament trumps everything, and especially if it has to do with NISFAS, which is the other end of the Siyaphumelela challenge we have. And so, unfortunately, he was unable to come today. Instead, we have the Chief Director for Teaching, Learning and Research Development, Philip Shabalala, who will be here today. He's at DHET. I have a bio, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he's an experienced education and leader and public servant with more than 30 years of service across South Africa's education sector. His career spans education research, policy development, system planning, and institutional support. And for all of you, you'll know one important fact, and that is that the UCDP falls under his portfolio. And if you have a chance, chat with him today. What I also wanted to just say is that what doesn't come through in all his kind of formal, bio is the fact that he has a rich history of student activism. He was vice president of SASCO. I'm sure we sat across the table from time to time. And he was also the president of SAVETSA, which is the South African Vocational Education Training Student Association. And perhaps more importantly, and that's why he'll be such a good replacement for Minister Buti Manamela, he was a national secretary of the Young Communist League. He studied at Tshwane North TVT College, where he did digital electronics, and then went on to do a master's at WITS in public policy and development management. So with that, I would like very much to welcome Philip Shabalala to represent the minister here today.
I must say that I'm very humbled, although perhaps with some displacement, in that I'm standing in for the minister, and that's why Prof mixed up the bio, because indeed that's the minister who was the vice president of SASCO. But otherwise, out of coincidence, well, I was as well during my student days. And so these things seem to follow me, because I abandoned, politics and them many years ago, to pursue my professional career. But these things do come back. Here I am standing on behalf of the minister. So Program Director, Prof. Bawa, Saidi and Siyaphumelela representatives, Vice Chancellors of all universities represented here today, the executive management and academics from the universities, officials from the Department of Higher Education and Training, policymakers, and all government representatives present here, researchers and analysts, philanthropic organizations and education funders, Dr. Karen Stout, the President and CEO of Achieving the Dream, and representatives of the Kresge Foundation. Bill Moses, present here, just gave us an opening remarks. Civil society leaders, student leadership, international higher education partners, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and those that I may not have mentioned from the various institutions and organizations in our country, from the higher education and the post-school education and training landscape. It's both an honor and privilege to stand before you on behalf of the Minister on this important occasion, the 2026 Siyaphumelela Conference, with the theme carrying on from last year, reimagining student success and expanding opportunity for all. This event is not merely an academic engagement. It's a recognition of transformation, perseverance, and the collective vision we share for the future of South African higher education. Today, we contribute to a growing legacy of commitment to building a stronger, more inclusive, and globally competitive higher education system. The views that will be shared over the next few days in this conference are the product of a vision shared by government, universities, and international partners to build a system that is both transformed and transformative. We gather here not only as academics, leaders, scholars, and students, but as change agents who will inspire students and shape the intellectual character of our nation. Some may describe this as an academic engagement on student success. In reality, it's about the transformation of higher education itself. The Government of National Unity has declared 3 national priorities for their term of office, which is the 5 years from 2024, which is inclusive growth and job creation, reducing poverty and tackling the cost of living, and building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. Universities, academics, and students are essential to realizing these goals. So knowledge production, teaching excellence, and innovation are indispensable tools in addressing our social and economic challenges. Of course, challenges remain. The disruptions of COVID-19 slowed progress across many fronts. Resources continue to be constrained, and the demands of the labor market are constantly evolving. Yet, this initiative of Siyaphumelela has remained resilient. It has demonstrated that through vision, perseverance, and collaboration, higher education in South Africa can overcome obstacles and continue to flourish. Student success is not optional, it's imperative. We must build a higher education system that delivers excellence in teaching, research, and engagement, that is demographically representative, that embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that is relevant to local contexts while remaining globally competitive, and that produces employable, ethical, critical, and innovative graduates who will lead our society into the future. Higher education remains the foundation of national progress. The research that you undertake in the universities and the teaching that you deliver, as well as the leadership you provide, will shape not only careers, but the very character of our nation. You are the architects of the university of the future. Carry this responsibility with pride, passion, and purpose. To the students in our universities, you are the primary drivers of your own success. Academics are there to guide and support you. Universities provide support mechanisms for your success, and this conference provides an opportunity for you to contribute your input on how you can be supported effectively to succeed in your studies. The University Capacity Development Program, which we launched in 2018, has reinforced these efforts by focusing on student support, staff development, as well as curriculum transformation. Strong data analytics capacity is essential if universities are to analyze, as well as to do their planning and make informed predictions about the quantitative and qualitative data they have at their disposal. And I believe there's a lot that we've been learning from achieving the dream on this score, and Karen will further add to that. Data analytics draws on information about students before they enter the system, during their participation in higher education, and after they graduate and contribute to society and the economy. The predictive power of data analytics enables the development of early warning systems that identify students who may require specific forms of support to succeed. Effective advising systems draw on these insights and other student data to direct students towards appropriate support services. And so the planning and predictive capabilities enabled by robust data analytics combined with strong advising systems allow institutions to provide integrated packages of student support that respond to the diverse student development needs and enhance the likelihood of success. Student success has and continues to be a priority for government, the department, and our universities. In recent years, earmarked grants from the department have enabled universities to implement innovative strategies to improve student outcomes. The department continues to invest significantly in student success through initiatives such as the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, the Foundation Provisioning Program, the Clinical Grant, the Infrastructure Grant, and a range of other earmarked grants. These programs serve as important systemic levers for advancing student success across the sector. The department made a deliberate decision to ensure that the Siyaphumelela network is amongst the national initiatives that universities can elect to participate in, utilizing the UCDP grant. The total value of this grant transferred to universities exceeds 1 billion rand annually, and a portion of these funds supports participation in the Siyaphumelela network. And so this decision, followed by the recognition that only 5 universities were direct beneficiaries of the network, despite already demonstrating significant capacity in student analytics and data-informed student success initiatives. The UCDP, therefore, adopts an integrated approach focused on student development, staff development, and program and curriculum development. Student success is influenced by all 3 of these areas. If we are to continue improving outcomes across the higher education system, we need a coordinated and coherent approach that addresses all 3 of these areas. This grant, the UCDP that is, has enabled the expansion of network participation to 20 universities now, as we speak, whose objectives align closely with the student success priorities of the UCDP. The department has also allowed universities participating in the network but receiving no direct funding support from it to incorporate network participation into their institutional grant sub-program project plans. In practical terms, this enables institutions to cover subscription costs and additional expenses associated with network capacity development activities that are not already covered through membership. And so participation in the network and the opportunity to work with the Siyaphumelela institutional coaches and through accessing appropriate Siyaphumelela services enable institutions to build responsive student success activities into the new 3-year institutional grant sub-program project plans. To ensure graduate employability and prepare future employees and entrepreneurs, higher education institutions are increasingly expected not only to produce graduates with disciplinary knowledge, but also to cultivate entrepreneurial capabilities, innovation, adaptability, and problem-solving skills that respond to societal and economic challenges. It's therefore essential that entrepreneurship, in its broadest sense and supported through departmental funding, becomes fully integrated into the higher education sector as a strategic and policy priority. This requires entrepreneurship to be embedded across teaching and learning, research and innovation, community engagement, and institutional planning processes. While the department has taken important steps to establish and strengthen a national entrepreneurship ecosystem, we recognize that this vision can only be realized through strong collaboration, policy alignment, and a shared commitment among all stakeholders. Ultimately, all of this investment from the department is intended to enable universities, and I quote, as Minister would, open quotes, design the pedagogical approaches for the students they have, not the students they wish they had or wish to have. This requires approaches that are responsive, inclusive, adaptive, challenging, and compassionate, close quote, as stated by Sarah Goldrick and Jess Stommel. Universities must also keep pace with the rapid changes taking place in education, particularly those driven by technological advancement. We must ensure that both students and academics develop the digital competencies necessary to thrive in a rapidly changing global environment. I also urge Siyaphumelela not to leave out technical and vocational education and training colleges in this valuable initiative. We must consider how this capacity can be developed across the entire post-school education and training system. We have a responsibility to ensure that sectors not directly supported through the Siyaphumelela initiative are also empowered to build this capacity. Failure to do so risks widening developmental inequalities within the PSET system and undermining our social justice agenda. In closing, let me express our sincere gratitude on behalf of the department to the Kresge Foundation and particularly to Sadie and all the colleagues at Sadie for their long outstanding commitment to the well-being of the South African higher education system. We deeply appreciate both their passion and the substantial financial resources the foundation has contributed over many years to support a range of initiatives, including this Siyaphumelela initiative. We also want to pay tribute to the former Chief Executive Officer of Sadie, Ms. Jenny Glenny, who introduced the department to the foundation and Siyaphumelela. Her dedication to education and development left a lasting impact on us. Although she's no longer with us, her legacy lives on through the work we continue today. May her soul rest in peace. The phrase Siyaphumelela, which translated is "we succeed," perfectly captures the spirit that should guide us. We succeed when we collaborate. We succeed when we innovate. We succeed when we place students at the center of everything we do. And we succeed when we show that every student, regardless of background or circumstance, has a genuine opportunity to realize their potential. We will succeed if we work together. The Department of Higher Education and Training remains firmly committed to supporting this journey for as long as resources allow. We will continue to invest in initiatives that strengthen teaching and learning, improve student outcomes, promote equity, and advance transformation across the post-school education and training sector. The future of our country depends on the success of our students. The decisions we make today, the partnerships we strengthen, and the investments we make in higher education will shape the South Africa of tomorrow. Let us therefore leave this conference inspired, determined, and united in our commitment to reimagining student success and expanding opportunity for all. Together, we can build a higher education system that's inclusive, innovative, responsive, and globally competitive. Together, we will succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Philip, and I just want to ask you please to give him another round of applause. He did this at very short notice, so really appreciate this very much. There's a lot in that speech, I think, that we can pick up on, and I'm not going to run through all of it, but just to understand this idea that the work of Siyaphumelela is not just about being transformative of individuals, but transformative of the system, which I think, we've always understood, like that success really means transforming the institutions. And that quote, which is about the fact that, we must accept the fact that this is, Bladen Zimande has said this to the vice chancellors many times in the past, where he would say, the students we have are the students we have. There aren't any other students there, and that's really at the crux of this matter. And I just wanted to also just focus on the idea of entrepreneurial thinking, this idea that it's not so much about building entrepreneurs, which is also important, but this idea of inculcating in young people this idea, just as we build critical thinking, we should be building innovative thinking and entrepreneurial thinking and so on as part of the agenda. And I think that perhaps one of the most important points really is to keep pace with this absolutely frantic pace at which this digital transformation is taking place, the change in digital kind of technologies. And as we all know, we're sort of grappling with difficulty around this, the issue of AI and how AI is going to influence the future of higher education. And of course, just the importance of the UCDP in all of that, the University Capacity Development Program, is critically important because it really is a clear indication at a value of 1 billion rand a year, slightly more than that I think it is now, is a critically important kind of intervention from government in exactly the kinds of things that Siyaphumelela is working on. And so I think it's from that speech, there's a lot there that we can pick up on. And of course, ultimately, it's all about building a better society. And for that, I think we all have to agree that the role of universities is absolutely central. And if we fail in ensuring that students succeed, then that huge investment in student success, the huge investment in higher education, will not be as effective and efficient as we would like. With that, let me just say thank you very much. And now I'm going to call on Bill to please come up and introduce Karen Stout. Thank you.
Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Karen Stout. Karen is the president and CEO of Achieving the Dream, the organization that started the student success movement in the United States. Before then, when she got there in 2015, she had been president of Montgomery Community College in suburban Philadelphia for 14 years. At the time that she took over Achieving the Dream, ATD had just been created as a consolidated organization from a group of nonprofits working in this area. Karen took the newly formed ATD and led it to strength and strength and strength. She has attracted hundreds of community colleges to join ATD to reform their institutions from inside out and to create a real movement to improve student attainment in the United States. She's attracted hundreds of grants, particularly from foundations like the Kresge Foundation, the Lumina Foundation, and the Gates Foundation, all which have championed student success in the United States. I have a question, actually. Raise your hand if you have attended Dream ever. So you can see across this room, I can't even count all, it's probably got to be several dozen people who've been to Dream in this room. So if you haven't been to Dream, you might not know that ATD focuses on whole college transformation based on evidence and equity to ensure all students have a chance to graduate and succeed in their lives. Karen has been a wonderful champion of our work, not just in the United States, but here in South Africa in Siyaphumelela, advising us, supporting the creation of the South African coaching and ICAT systems that all the institutions benefit from, and never forgetting the impact student success has on people's lives. And it's truly been an honor to work with her. Here's a fun fact. Karen is a consummate athlete. She lettered, I don't know if you have the term letter in South Africa, but that's when, if you've ever watched movies about American teenage life, Athletes get a special jacket or sweater when they achieve a certain level of excellence in a sport. She lettered in several sports in high school. I think it was 5. I said 500 yesterday, but I think it was 5. And remains a world-class athlete today. I think she's headed to Antwerp to represent the United States soon in field hockey. With that, I'd like to introduce Karen Stout, a true leader in the global student success movement.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everyone. I hope that we are able to communicate well in this format. I really wish that I were with you today. I'm going to quickly put up my deck, and then we'll get started. It's always a little challenging to get the technology going, but geez, that's supposed to be a surprise. Okay. All right. So again, I come here with deep appreciation for this partnership, and I want to offer congrats to Sadie on the design of the conference, the design with deep embedded student voice, the design with peer learning clearly embedded in the showcases that are to come in the next couple of days. And I want to offer congratulations to all of the students in the room, and I wish that I were able to hear all of your poems over the course of the next week. I want to thank Innocent for this invitation and the entire Sadie team for all the details. Behind the scenes, I know that I have several Achieving the Dream staff members listening in, and 2 in particular that I want to thank and call out, Melinda Anderson and Elizabeth Fisher, who really attend to all of the details of our partnership with Sadie, including working with the delegation that comes each year from South Africa. I want to thank Bill. Bill, thank you for that introduction. This is a picture from Dream this year, and I want to thank the Kresge Foundation for your investment in this collective work. And Trustee Jenkins, thank you also for taking the time to be in South Africa and to see the spread and impact of the work firsthand. Bill, you've brought us together with your unwavering support of our work, collectively and individually, and it's changing lives for millions of students across the globe. I know many of you are here in teams, and the energy we get from sharing new ideas with colleagues real time in a setting like you are in is really hard to recreate. So as wonderful as Dream is, I know Dream is missing this ingredient, this opportunity for teams to come together and work collaboratively and learn collaboratively and leave this convening with a collective work plan. Ideas that you think you can adopt to help you decide what to start and what to stop as you continue your student success journeys. Our time together at Dream is special, so I know there are many in the audience that I have met over the years at Dream. I truly enjoy Dream for a number of reasons. One of my favorite things is welcoming the South African delegation. There's an informal shot. We have a lot of fun together, and this is the whole delegation. I enjoy listening in on and contributing to your debrief sessions. I was reminded of that yesterday when I was able to listen in to the Leadership Forum conversation and hear the common issues that our sectors are managing. Opportunities to do strategic reallocation of our budgets. How do we do that? How do we help industry partners have a stake in our outcomes? Sectoral competition is deep. How do we move more collaboratively into a co-opetition kind of environment? Issues around credit mobility and articulation. Rural college issues that are different than urban college issues. how you're partnering with NGOs and municipalities is very similar to how Achieving the Dream colleges are partnering with community-based organizations and their local communities that often fund them. And then one observation that really struck me yesterday, because it's top of mind for ATD at the moment, is how do we embed career advising into the student experience from the very start of the student experience, rather than bolting it on to the back end. And that was brought up as something that was an opportunity in South Africa. And it is certainly something we're working on with our colleges at Achieving the Dream. Hearing your stories about what brings you to dream really helps to connect me to your work. We started in partnership the South African Dream Scholar in 2025 on the 10th year anniversary of our partnership. And there's another picture of the fun at Dream. And this quote from Zoe, our 2026 Dream Scholar, really struck me. It's from her I Am From poem. Stability sounded like a language other people spoke fluently. But then at UWC, where the walls remember the struggle, where the soil is rich with footsteps of those who fought for freedom with books in bare hands, there I found something steady. There I found root. And her words, and the words of many of the Dream Scholars over the years, inspire us as practitioners to move the work forward beyond completion. That's the next climb for us. Their definition of completion rarely includes the diploma or the credential itself, but rather it includes what they intend to contribute after they finish their studies. And their words really inspired the development of Achieving the Dream's community vibrancy framework, a framework that resonates with so many because it captures within it the student journey and possibility. As Achieving the Dream concludes its 22nd year and Siyaphumelela its 12th year, it's wonderful to say we are making progress. And one of the most compelling stories is the progress made through Siyaphumelela and your work together. As has been previously said, what started as a movement that was focused on student success has evolved into a powerful model of institutional transformation and collaborative potential. Across the original participating universities, most institutions have achieved first-year retention above 90%, with particularly strong outcomes for female students. And those gains are translating into meaningful improvements in student progression and completion, including throughput increases of 10 to 23% in several degree and diploma programs. Yet, as Innocent said, the most important achievement might be what is underneath the numbers. Student success has moved from the margins of your institutions to the center of institutional strategy. Silos have been broken down as faculty, student affairs professionals, researchers, and senior leaders work together around a shared agenda. And data are no longer viewed as compliance, but as instruments for learning, improvement, and accountability. So in many ways, Siyaphumelela demonstrates a lesson we have also learned through Achieving the Dream, that sustainable gains in student outcomes occur not because of a single initiative, but because the institution builds the capacity, the culture, and the leadership at all levels necessary to continuously improve on behalf of our students. And that work becomes contagious. Now you touch 20 of the 26 universities in South Africa with aspirations to reach more institutions across your education and training system. ATD's reach and impact is equally impressive. We reached 48 colleges and our work has we reached colleges in 48 states, and our work has touched more than 500 community colleges and some open access universities within the United States. Our approach is unique. It starts with colleges coming into an intensive 3-year foundations and transformation experience, supported by coaching, supported by understanding capacities and the ICAT, which was mentioned earlier. And then as colleges move out of that 3-year experience, we continue to support the acceleration of their transformation journey with customized coaching, kind of matching where they are on their journey, cohorted learning opportunities like DREAM, awards and recognition like Leader College and Leader College of Distinction, and then access to grants from funders that support their work in going deeper with innovative strategies to continue to move forward their success. And we believe this approach, and we know this approach, leads to impact. Network colleges start with lower graduation rates than non-network colleges, but they end up with completion rates that are increasing at much steeper rates. And most importantly, network colleges are narrowing equity gaps across many demographics, including race, age, attendance status, program, gender, etc. And we also know that the longer a college stays in the network, the better their completion rates, that this work is a long game. Last week, 7 of our ATD colleges were named to the Aspen Top 10 list and are now eligible for Aspen's $1 million prize. And that's not a coincidence. That 7 ATD colleges out of the 10 are out of the 10. We're quite proud of that. So my remarks today are going to focus on innovation by intention and why I think this moment requires intention and disciplined implementation over what might be called innovation by invention. So Bill mentioned that my alternative identity is as an athlete. So in March, I was on a basketball-sized court in the United Kingdom representing the US in the Masters Indoor Field Hockey World Cup tournament with 101 teams from across the world, men's and women's. And I got a firsthand glimpse of how important intentionality and disciplined implementation practice is. Now let me pause there because I know some of you are probably thinking, why are you doing this at this point in your life? And all I can say is that I'm not quite sure, but I am having fun and I'm learning. What struck me most about playing was not the competition, but what preparation was required to compete. And while our team spent an enormous time practicing what we call set pieces, those of you watching the World Cup probably know what those soccer set pieces are. In field hockey, they're very similar. Corners, corner offense, corner defense. It was clear that our international competitors had spent even more time practicing with even more intention. Repetitive, highly technical, tedious practice. The kind of work that doesn't look impressive from the outside. But in a game, it's what matters. It's where games are won and lost. In a game against Wales, we lost 2-1. Wales executed on both of their offensive corners. We had 13 offensive corners and scored on 1. This and another 1 goal loss that was nearly identical has stayed with me. A famous basketball coach in the US, John Wooden, reminds us that failure to prepare is prepared failure. So we know all of this when we apply this learning to student success. Excellent results in student outcomes result from the quiet discipline of preparation and entrusting one another to do our part. And I think that's the undertold story of transformation inside our colleges. Transformation takes time. Transformation takes unwavering attention and patience. Transformation takes preparation and practice and requires failure to improve. Transformation requires leadership at all levels of our organization. Transformation requires intention. So I want to speak today about what we carry forward as leaders into this next agenda of student success. and how we can collectively shape that next chapter with clarity, courage, and collective purpose. So we, of course, are living in a profound time of change. I don't have to go deep in that. Our students, though, are living more complex lives than ever. And at the same time, our expectations for outcomes are rising in the US and in South Africa. So we're being asked to deliver not just access to our colleges and completion, but to advance mobility and well-being for our students, and to be at the center, to be a catalyst of economic and social transformation for our communities and our countries. As I told a group of trustees and presidents earlier this month, and as I learned yesterday in the Leadership Forum conversation, we are not peripheral to this moment. We are central to it. And I think meeting this moment requires something different from us. It doesn't require doing more. It requires us to lead differently with the kind of intention that I describe. If you've seen me present before, you've seen this slide depicting the arc of the student success movement in the United States. I don't know if this resonates with you in South Africa. Pieces of it may. I encourage you to think about the work of Siyaphumelela within this context. You know, what are the arcs of your work? How are they connected? For achieving the dream, we're trying to connect completion to what that means for student and family return on education, not return on investment, but return on education, which I think are two different terms. And then how that return on education contributes to a thriving community. And then underneath of that is this enduring commitment to access, which I'll speak to in a minute. And then you've probably also seen this, the intention of ATD and the arc of the work in our community vibrancy framework, which tries to create a map, a roadmap for our colleges to identify where they are in the student success movement in their local context, and then how they situate that within the broader community. So Bill talked about ATD being well known for what we do with whole college transformation from the inside out. That's the middle of the framework that's on the screen. We focus a lot on the first year experience. I know your colleges do as well. We focus a lot on momentum toward program completion. You do the same thing. But we also have to do that within the context of understanding who's missing from our colleges and who's benefiting from the work. And unless we get that outside in perspective, we are operating in an insular kind of environment. And I think that was the early part of the student success work and necessary for us to start as a starting point. But now it's time for us to connect to the larger ecosystem within which we sit. And therefore, the capacities that we embrace as institutions are different. You took our original ICAT several years ago and you customized it for South Africa and the work of your institutions. This is our new ICAT that helps to activate community vibrancy, and it has a couple of new capacities that you might also think about customizing for your context, for your next climb. Specifically, the idea of being community connected. How community connected are you really? And the ICAT helps run through the dimensions of community connectedness. The other new one, disciplined implementation, which gets exactly at this idea of intention and focus and going deep, that we innovate through intention rather than innovate through invention. That's a theme that I'll speak to more in a moment. So I'm not going to go deep into the framework and the tools. I really want to speak to the 5 intentional shifts that I think are necessary in this next era of student success leadership, and put these not just in an American context, but in a South African context. And these are the 5, and I'll go through each one. a bold new access agenda. For generations, community colleges have been defined by the promise of open access. The open door has been our moral compass, our democratic commitment. But access today must be understood differently than it was when many of our colleges were founded. So we all are forced to ask new questions. Who's missing from our campuses? Which communities are disconnected from higher education? How do we not just deliver services, but change public policies about childcare, housing instability, healthcare access to shape who can participate? And access in South Africa is somewhat similar but different because it's not simply about admission, it's about belonging. It's about ensuring that students who arrive from vastly different schooling experiences, communities, and economic circumstances can see themselves as successful participants in higher education. So the unfinished work of access is helping every student from entry to agency. First generation students, rural students, those historically excluded, those with financial precarity, etc. So as leaders in this next phase of work, we have to carry forward a more relational definition of access. We have to move from, in America, what we call the quantitative admissions funnels, which I think there are some version of those in South Africa, to more human-centered outreach, trust building in communities that have been historically excluded, and whole student advocacy. We excel as leaders in seeing interconnected systems, and we're strong voices for the unseen student. Very often, higher education leaders are the leaders that carry forward the insistence that policy, housing, childcare, healthcare, food stability is actually student success work. That's that holistic student support framework that you've adopted so deeply in the work in your universities. The second is moving from course and program offerings to program portfolios. So colleges have worked hard to improve course completion rates and to create clearer program pathways that students can navigate efficiently. And Sadie colleges have been very strong here. But the next challenge for us is to think strategically, not just about courses and programs, but the entire portfolio of programs that your university offers, the collective mix of offerings that shape your impact on a student's future and the community's future. And those portfolios could transcend sectors as well. So these questions become urgent for us. Do programs, individually and collectively, lead to meaningful wage gains and career mobility? Are pathways aligned with regional talent needs, and are credits mobile across sectors? Are new programs emerging in response to evolving workforce needs? South African universities may be thinking less about program rationalization than we are in America, and more about employability and responsiveness and entrepreneurship, future skills, and how all that links to national development, and asking increasingly whether your programs position graduates to contribute to a rapidly changing environment. Certainly in an era shaped by AI and climate change and demographic shifts and economic uncertainty, you become architects of opportunity through your program choices. And I think our first wave of the student success work, we did not go deep enough in the program work. That's an opportunity for us. So as leaders, we carry forward this systems level thinking requirement over silos, seeing the institution as an ecosystem, not just a collection of departments. As leaders, we carry forward this courage to make hard decisions, modifying programs, reallocating resources, starting new programs. This is often deeply political and relational work. And finally, remaining student-centered in our design. Not just what programs exist, but who those programs are benefiting and who those programs are not benefiting. The third intentional shift is around mobility. Completion matters, A credential we know changes lives, but completion is not the finish line. Our dream scholar in 2025 from South Africa, our first from the University of the Free State, affirmed this in his I Am From poem. Bradley said, "What I also want to tell you is that student success is more than just the achievements of degrees and transcripts. It's the perseverance forged in late night struggles, the quiet victories of understanding after countless failures. It is embedded in the moments of knowing someone is consistently supported and held. The next frontier for our work must be mobility. Institutions must understand more clearly how what we do translates into long-term outcomes for students and families. You see that ripple effect potential here in South Africa. Mobility is not just economic, it is the ability of graduates to strengthen families, contribute to communities, participate in democratic life, and help to build a more equitable society. So, what do we carry forward as leaders? We need to expand our definition of success and move beyond institutional metrics. Those are important for monitoring and accountability, but also to human outcomes. We need to translate mobility into language that our students and our faculty and our communities understand. And we need not just to know whether students are succeeding, but we really need to understand who is benefiting from mobility gains. We possibly could further exacerbate equity gaps without keeping that lens on outcomes. The fourth shift is compressing the distance between knowing and doing. You know, we have a lot of knowledge right now about what works, and that's certainly the case here in South Africa. One of the great strengths of this network is that you already have an extraordinary body of evidence about what works. But it is time for us to seize this moment and use time as a lever. Just as we in the United States are working to compress time to degree for students, it's now time to compress the time to results for institutions. We can no longer accept that it takes 5 to 7 years to design the systems and build the capacities that we need to accelerate student outcomes. Compressing the time between knowing and doing will require new forms of distributed leadership throughout our institutions. Faculty, program directors, student services professionals, administrators, all empowered students to act on the evidence that we have and to make more timely decisions. We have to be faster in moving from evidence to institutional practice. And this was something that was highlighted yesterday in the Leadership Forum as an opportunity for you moving forward. So what do we carry forward as leaders? We need to have urgency with empathy. So I'm calling for urgency, but also calling for empathy, balancing pace with people, moving faster without leaving people behind. And we need to shift from a culture of compliance to one of pure learning and iteration, constant learning and iteration. The last shift, putting teaching and learning at the center, and it's not the last because it is last, I probably would put this first. The student success movement must confront one of our most enduring blind spots. For too long, a lot of our reform work has focused on structures around learning, advising systems, program maps, financial support, institutional policies. And though critical, those efforts are not substitutes for what happens inside the classroom. The future of the student success movement will only go as far as our ability to move teaching and learning from the margins of reform to the center of it, to create agency, confidence, and sense of belonging in students. Agency captured here again by Bradley in his poem. I see that I am not just from, but I am going forward. Not just a child of hardship, but an architect of change. As AI changes how knowledge is created and accessed, the role of faculty becomes even more important. The future belongs to institutions that help students think critically, solve problems collaboratively, and develop the confidence to act in the world. So, what leaders must carry forward here? Recentering the academic core. Don't avoid the classroom. Deeply engage with pedagogy. Support faculty success as much as you support student success. Hold respect for faculty expertise while also holding up accountability for outcomes. You can hold both truths simultaneously. And continue to build human-centered learning environments where belonging and relevance and connection for students is created, especially critical in this upcoming AI era. So the future of student success in South Africa will be determined by whether institutions can sustain the discipline to implement what we already know. So what do we carry forward? Access as belonging, programs as opportunity, mobility as the transformation, evidence as action, and teaching and learning as the heart of the work. So the challenge ahead is not invention, it's intention. Intention in scaling what works inside our colleges and universities to accelerate student outcomes, and intention in scaling the connections of these outcomes with how they transform our communities and our countries. For SADE and for ATD, this means moving forward with intention in how we scale as well. South Africa needs a strong and sustainable organization like SADE to accelerate and deepen scaling inside your institutions and beyond. So let me return to where I began. This is my last address as president and CEO of Achieving the Dream. Our work in South Africa is one of the highlights of my career. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. And as I step into my next chapter, I've been thinking about what I carry forward. I carry the stories of students like Zoe and Bradley, whose lives were changed by our work. I carry the lessons of colleagues and mentors and leaders from organizations like SADE. I carry the belief that this work matters deeply, and I carry hope. Hope in this room, hope in the leaders in this room that are stepping forward right now to shape what comes next. Last week, I watched and was inspired by Michelle Obama's comments at the opening of the Obama Presidential Center. She said, "We simply don't have the time to be cynical or complacent. Hope is the essential spark that lights the fire of change. But hope is a choice. Our futures will not be determined by circumstances, but by the choices we make together. It will be determined by our leadership. It will be determined by the commitments we make and keep. It will be determined by the courage that we bring to the work. It will be determined by our ability to do this work together in community, including community that spans oceans." One of my favorite authors is Robin Wall Kimmerer, and she reminds us of the importance of reciprocity, the core value in the partnership between ATD and SADE. In her book, The Serviceberry, she says, "All flourishing is mutual." And this photo captures, I think, the essence of what she says, the spirit of what she says. All flourishing is mutual. Thank you for helping ATD to flourish over the past 11 years. And thank you for allowing us to be part of your flourishing.
Thank you so much for that extraordinarily rich presentation to us, Karen. And there's so much in it which sort of resonates so much with what we've been thinking. And I just hope very much that that kind of conversation can continue. Even though you'll no longer be head of ADT. One of the things that we've been focusing on so much in South Africa is this idea of engaged learning, and so much of what you've been presenting today, what you presented today, deals with that. So let me just remind you, please, those of in the audience, if you have questions, please put them on your Hoover app, and somebody will deliver them to me. So please do that. But I've got a couple of questions to begin with. The first one is just to turn to Philip and to say to Philip that there's a question from the audience, which is DHET planning to have a UCDP conference to enable affiliated universities to share success stories? I think basically saying there's been a lot of investment on teaching and learning, and is there any plan for that to be brought together somehow?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, well, this is an ongoing kind of engagement that we are having with the universities through the various university-led collaborative projects that we are doing. And so with the UCDP, we've got different components of UCDP implementation, of which holistic student development is one of those. So we have up to now had, kind of colloquia and engagements, send-off engagements from especially the staff within the universities that have been going through the UCDP programs. And so the student one, I'm not aware of it, but it will form a part of the next 3-year cycle of plans that we are doing with the universities on the university-led collaborative projects. So we will definitely consider that.
Thank you so much for that. Let me just turn to Karen now. And it's interesting, of course, that Kresge's engagements in South Africa is Siyaphumelela and the anchor institutions work. And I hope you can hear me, Karen.
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
So one of the things, of course, that came across, as I mentioned earlier, is just this extraordinary importance of trying to ensure that that learning is not something that just remains in the classroom. That there's something that there's the opportunity for students to learn across different kinds of learning sites, if you like. And you use that wonderful phrase, which was I'm just trying to find it now. Sorry, give me a second. Just the whole idea that actually we should try and compress the time between knowing and doing. In some ways, in South Africa, we have this really crazy kind of system where we've bifurcated skills learning from, knowledge learning or theoretical learning. That's somehow creating the opportunity for students to ensure that we have learning across those domains. Do you have some ideas of how that might happen? So for example, the whole issue around building, using this platform of anchor institutions also for learning, is that something that you might consider as an opportunity, or do you have other thoughts that might contribute to that?
A couple of thoughts. I want to build on the idea of a potential, convening of some sort for faculty. So I want to make sure that I put an exclamation point on what I think was the suggestion in the first question. And I want to applaud UCDP for the holistic student support convening opportunities. But ATD has learned that we can reach faculty in unique ways if we convene faculty around the issues that and challenges of teaching and learning and classroom practice. On the other question, I think that community colleges in the United States are the middle piece of the skills and trades work and the transfer work. So we braid and bridge multiple pathways for students so that they're not either or, they are and kind of pathways, which makes the work very challenging and complicated. I think that some of the things that I see that are promising in South Africa is the conversation about designing the ecosystem of higher ed in South Africa around student pathways and thinking about what that means for cross-sector partnerships. There's that piece, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to convene those partnerships for the universities. But then within the classroom itself, one of the big movements right now in the United States is not just in the community colleges, but in the universities, it is about bringing experiential learning and work-based learning into the curriculum, embedding it in the curriculum in new and innovative ways, thinking about general education, which is often, and the humanities, which are often taught a little bit in silos. Students don't understand sometimes why they're taking those courses, and unbundling the humanities courses, not because they're not important, but because they are so important, and embedding those concepts into the skills and the skills training modules that we have at many community colleges. So I think the answer is it is an and. We're still learning in the United States, but there are a number of universities and community colleges that are scaling work-based learning and scaling experiential learning for their students so that they can compress the time between knowing and doing for the students.
Thank you so much for that. That's really, really interesting work, and I think a lot for us to kind of, in South Africa at least, to engage with. Let me just turn to Philip again, which is, there's so much of discussion about the pressure on the budgets, right? I mean, so, we know that NSFAS is really running into the red. We know that, that higher education budgets are sort of fairly stagnant. Is there any danger that the UCDP might be undermined in the long run?
Not at the moment, because in terms of the planning cycles and the commitment that the minister makes through the ministerial statements, the UCDP program and the grant is fairly secured now, except that, as you are indicating, that the increases over the medium-term expenditure framework and over the years is not really equivalent to the challenges that we've got to deal with. But remember that these UCDP projects are basically, transformational, and impact takes time to be seen. But at least for now, there is a guarantee of, sustained and continued funding for the UCDP.
Okay, that's good news. Thank you so much. Karen, I'm going to turn to you now. There's a question from the audience. Sorry, I have to look for it. Just give me a second, please. Yeah. First of all, the person says, thank you. Then, regarding community vibrancy, how do you design for students on the margins, facing psychosocial and financial challenges, first-generation students, etc., so that community building narrows equity gaps instead of widening them?
That's a great question. and I'm just writing down the notion of community building, narrowing equity gaps instead of widening them. You know, this is one of the, I think, the wonderful pieces of the community college mission, because access really is at the heart of how we do our work. So we are designing all of our supports for students on the margin. Community college students are primarily on the margin. That's hard. That's hard work. It's hard to design for students on the margin. It means different things around the way processes are structured for entry, for academic support that's combined with the program, and also for how we work with our community. Within the context of the community vibrancy framework, what has worried me for a long time as a community college leader and practitioner president was that we were so focused on, you know, enrollment and thinking that because students were coming to us, we were being successful. I always worried about who was not on campus. So that means really strategically diving into your community data, understanding, and in the US, it's by zip code, by census tract, who's on your campus, who's not on your campus, disaggregating all of that data, doing sense making around that data, and then having an active strategy to go into those communities, which means that we have to change the way that we work in our admissions offices and the way that we look at the input into our colleges. So many of our Achieving the Dream colleges, you know, they try to be proximate. They go into the communities, but they're not delivering the message about the value of higher education or training. They are working with community leaders so that community leaders are able to express the value, and community leaders are able to reach the constituents that they have built trust with. Because frankly, we go into communities, we're not trusted. And that's been one of the big mistakes, I think, in our movement, is that we've not formed those relationships on the front end that get at exactly the question that you're asking about what happens on the back end. If we don't have those relationships that are narrowing equity gaps from the very beginning, we're not going to have the students who are marginalized finishing and contributing to that community within which they live and work. So hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of the vibrancy framework is linear the way it's presented, but it's really circular. It's really circular. So I challenge you, you know, to think differently about how you work within your communities, and it means for faculty too. I spoke yesterday to a group of faculty leaders at a U.S. college and talked to them about their responsibility in digging deep into community, and not just thinking about their classroom as the unit of change, but their community as the unit of change.
Thank you so much. I think that's a really big issue. I think this idea of building sort of relationships which are built on trust, if you like, and the issue of equity has to be built into that, it seems to me. Philip, over to you. The challenges of transitioning from basic education to higher education are massive. Are there conversations between DBE and DHET on this, and what are they, or what could they be if it's not happening already?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Actually, you are ideally placed, right? Because you have been in DBE and DHET.
Yeah, but I just want to add on that question on community vibrancy. That it is something that I'd really, from the point of the department, want to challenge the audience and the resources that we've invested through the Achieving the Dream experience. In that it is something that we need to really bring back home and consider, given the challenges that we are having, you know, unemployment, skills mismatch, etc. And so, you will find that in the community vibrancy model, that's where we are able to bring to the table all critical stakeholders, especially from academia and through to industry and communities. So that's very important. I would like to really challenge Sadie and Siyaphumelela in driving this so that we can begin to gain some traction on this movement in the country, especially given the challenges that we have and the problems that we're having in the entire post-school education and training system, starting off with your TVET colleges. Now, with the transitioning from basic education to higher education, the challenges, once again, is those that we know, but government, through policy formulation, it has made sure that, as you would know, that right from basic education, we've got pro-poor policies that ensure that access, is universal as we have it now in the country, to make sure that even those from the poorest of the poor families are able to access education, and it's a basic right in terms of our constitution. And we have also seen, those, changes in terms of the funding model, which, ensure that those students and learners from basic education who are already in the wellness, welfare actually, program of government through the social security grants are catered for, and they are prioritized, and they are the beneficiaries of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. So that transition is well taken care of to make sure that we do not lose students through the cracks. But the main challenge for us now is actually dealing with the missing middle. But once again, there it's a challenge that goes to all of us in this room, including investors, funders, industry, employers, etc., to make sure that we can make our contribution in making sure that we leave no one behind and take care of our own. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. That is really one of the key issues that South Africa seems to be in. Thank you so much. Karen, one for you. This is from Dimpiwe. It says, we always try to build conducive student communities as contributors to well-being of students. What's your view on extracurricular activities and how they contribute to student success, and how can impact be measured?
Oh, what a good question. And you're asking that question to someone who benefited from extracurricular life as a college student, as an intercollegiate athlete, but also as the editor of the student newspaper, and having internships in different offices within the college that were, connected to what was then perceived to be extracurricular. I think for community colleges in our network, we probably have undervalued the extracurricular network that many of our community colleges offer our students. At least I really do think we have, and we've overvalued perhaps the integration of the skills and knowledge that you get from extracurricular activities into the embedding in the classroom. And the reason for that is just the nature of the population of students that are in our community colleges. They're predominantly part-time. Many of them, and we have kind of this U-shape. We have a lot of 17-year-old students who are dually enrolled in high school and our colleges, and then we have a lot of adult students. And the adult students that are the part-time students don't really want to be involved in extracurricular activities unless it is explicitly connected to the program of study and the learning outcomes within the program of study. So I think it's thinking in creative ways about what extracurricular means within the context of programs, which is one of the shifts that I talked about, the intentional shifts for the future. You know, we have there's differing opinion in the United States on this among community college presidents, and especially when it comes to funding extracurricular activities that aren't directly where the learning outcomes aren't directly connected to the program outcomes. I don't like that because I think we're undervaluing the well-being that's hard to measure that comes from that extracurricular participation. So, not knowing the full design of how extracurricular activities work in your universities, I'm not real good at answering this question, but I can give you that point of view from community colleges.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that. That's really interesting, I think. And back to you, Philip. This is about incorporating TVT and SET colleges and CETAs more fully into the student success movement has been flagged as important. Is there any thinking going on in this direction?
Yes, and very much so. I think the question is tied to the earlier, comments and call to action around community vibrancy, because that's exactly where we will be able to, problem solve in terms of the challenges, starting off with, program offerings in our TVET colleges, in our CET colleges, as well as articulation into higher education universities and through to the world of work. So that's very important, and it's a consideration that we are making as a department to make sure that we can, provide solutions to this. And then just lastly, to comment on the extracurricular activities. I think South Africa has many, positive lessons from, extracurricular activities in terms of, providing livelihoods and professions for those students who are involved in the extracurricular activities across the campuses and the institutions in our country. We've got many, luminaries in the field of sports, who have come out of our institutions. And then just the, the example that we would not want to quickly forget is the Orbit TVET College, which, had gained promotion into the professional soccer league, as a team. And so, but as I say, we've got a very good history of, students who have made a living out of participating in, extracurricular activities, whether it's sports, entertainment, etc. Yes.
I have one last sort of, it's partly a comment, partly a question. It seems to me, I often say to myself now, if I was a young academic now, if I was a young person now, would I embark on an academic career? I mean, the reason I pose this question is, it seems to me like the fun has gone out of teaching. The fun has gone out of academic careers. I mean, now that might be sort of an old man looking back and thinking about the old days, but is there something around this idea of putting the fun back into teaching? Just taking into consideration, it's maybe not the same in the US, but in South Africa, just the extraordinary high levels of bureaucratization, the emphasis on research, this explosive growth in research really comes from, where does it come from, right? It comes from teaching. It comes from kind of, where is the cost of that coming from? The cost comes from teaching. So I just wonder, do you have any comment about that? I mean, which is, is there some project for us to consider how we can put the fun back into teaching?
I'll just be quick on that one. I think the closer we are as teachers to the students, the more fun. I would reframe, whenever I work with mentees on an academic career, I would reframe it from fun to fulfillment. Because I think that there is still that deep level of fulfillment that brings a sense of joy to the work that maybe isn't fun. I think back to my early days of teaching when we were still really we were scrappy. I understand where you're going with your question. I just think that we need to be thinking that the fun comes in the fulfillment, and the fun comes from the joy that comes from the fulfillment.
Yeah, no, thank you.
That's
Thank you
how
for
I
that.
would look at
It
it.
seems to be something we have to focus on. I mean, in the context of this incredibly high loads that young academics carry now, and the increased bureaucracy and so on. I don't know, Philip, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, and I think the executives and the academics in the room can help us, because I think it's a big challenge these days in the institutions, in that research is valorized over teaching, and that is a very big challenge. And so I think the leaders in this room can advise us in terms of how we can strike a balance between research and teaching and learning in such a way that we are not compromising on teaching and the fun that we need to bring back into the curriculum and the content that we are delivering to our students.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Let me ask you all, please, just to give the panel a huge round of applause. I think it was been a really rich conversation. And just want to say thank you very much to Karen and to Philip, and both of you, just really added enormous amount of kind of value to this opening session. Philip, I have a gift for you from Saidi. Yeah, I'm sure they got it at the right value, so you don't have to.
Honorable Minister.
You don't have to report it. Karen, next time we'll make sure that we have a 3D printer here, and we'll kind of like get you to kind of receive it on. You'll have to have a 3D printer, and we'll send you the gift from here.
Thank you. The gift is the opportunity to be part of the conversation today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. See you later today.
What a session. Thank you once again to the two keynote speakers and to Prof. Bawa for moderating the session. Why don't we hear from another student? I'm going to invite a student from Stellenbosch University, Rivando van Veek. Before he starts talking or dishing to us whatever he has, let me introduce him more formally. Rivando is a final year education student from Malmesbury, studying at University of Stellenbosch. Having overcome personal struggles at a young age, he is passionate about using his story to encourage young people to rise above their circumstances. He is a strong academic and Rector's Award recipient for social impact at Stellenbosch University. He is also known for his humility, his resilience, and dedication to youth development. His personal motto, "Remember your name, Van Wyk," remains him of the legacy he carries and the impact he hopes to leave through leadership, mentorship, and service to others. Please take the floor.
I am Rifandu, shaped by pain and grace, a young man determined to find his place. I am from a shack where rain became sound, where hope was spoken but was somehow not found. I am my mother's strength, sacrifice and fight. The voice that tell others to chase their light. I am the tears, the lessons, the scars I wear. Proof that even broken hearts repair. I am not proud of every road I knew. There were seasons in my life where I lost what was true. I searched for escape where too many young men go, thinking that drugs will bury the hurt below. But numbness is temporary, and pain always stays. And that's how I lost myself in dangerous ways. Then, drugs took more than moments, more than sleep. They took my brother, and that loss, it runs deep. His absence became like a wound time could not erase. And that reminded me how quickly life could lose and change its pace. I was a young man hiding behind my smile, pretending I was okay even though it was just for a while. Life became, and it grew heavily. Thoughts became louder, but I hid in the crew. And maybe that's the thing to Sheldon to explain, that men also break. Men also feel pain. That men can look strong and still appear strong. That men can laugh in the daylight while aching all along. I reached points in my life where I wanted to disappear, more than once, more than twice, controlled by my fear. But the Lord, He carried me when I could not stand. He held what was broken with a gentle hand. He carried me through the nights I thought I'd not survive. Reminded me there was still reason to be alive. Slowly but slowly I stood up, over and over again. Over and over again. I am not free from the past, but stronger than the pain. I am a leader beyond any title I hold. I choose courage over comfort and gold. I encourage people to believe. And I tell them, you know what? I know what it feels like to struggle and to grieve. People, change starts now. Not next month, not next year. I am from Malmesbury, yet my dreams fly high. And that reminds me, it doesn't matter where you start, you will still fly high. I crossed oceans and realized that day the world is actually much bigger than what people say. My primary success was definitely not where I'd been, the places I traveled or the places I've seen, but it was actually bringing dignity home. Building an indoor toilet inside the walls of our shack, showing my family that even small victories can stand tall. I am first generation, but not first by chance. I carry generation with every new advance. And when life gets hard and I feel the strain, when rejection arrives or shadows whispers again, I remember the rain. I remember my mother. I remember my name. I remember the shack. I remember the loss. I remember the Lord who carried me across. And I rise once more, not only for me, but for the someone watching to see the mirror in me. Thank you.
He is known for his resilience. Thank you, Rivando.
Thanks. Yes, I have to follow that with housekeeping. Next slide, please. If you can go to the next slide, please. So we've got a couple of housekeeping. We're going to be moving and transitioning now to our poster session, and then followed by our conference reception and honoring of Jenny Glennie. Sorry, the slides aren't moving. And I wanted to show you in the app how you can use your QR codes in order to connect with people through the app. And I had quite a nice screenshot showing that. Okay, one back. One back. There we go. So that's how you do it. If you go into your app, you click on the menu on the left, and there you can see you've got contacts. So you click on My Contacts, and then on the bottom right, you'll see over there, scan the QR code. And you're going to be scanning the QR codes on your name tag in order to be able to connect with each other through the app, as well as get their contact information. If you wanted to share your own information, it's also over there where you can view your profile and view your QR code. Okay, so we did do quite a lot of efforts into these, and they should really work. I know some of you have tried scanning them just with your normal QR code scanner, and it doesn't work. It has to be done through the app. Thanks. Next slide. Okay, so a little bit then around the housekeeping. As I say, we've got the poster and networking session, which is taking place now. It's going to be taking place in the foyer outside. We've got some afternoon refreshments, and then please one soft drink, beer or wine. And thereafter, we'll be transitioning from around 5:30. We'll be having a welcome drink for the conference reception, and then the actual reception itself is going to start at 6 o'clock. And there we will have some light refreshments and drinks available. For tomorrow, we've got our plenary session in the morning, which is on the employability and the economic mobility. We've got some really interesting keynotes there from Nicola Branson from Selju. We've got Joanna Preston from Standard Bank and the head of the South African Graduates Employers Association. She's First National Bank, is that right? I apologize. Joanna Preston from First National Bank and the chair of the board for the South African Graduates Employers Association. We also have Prof. Maggie Linnington from Walter Sisulu University, Giselle Burns from New Zealand, from Marseille University, as well as Michelle Lagrange from University of Pretoria, who will be providing some insights around how institutions are addressing employability within their own institution. Thank you. Next slide. We're almost there. There we go. So please, can you join us at 5:30 for the welcome drinks, and then 6 o'clock for our honoring Jenny Glennie and the conference reception. It will be taking place here. We've got some very, very interesting keynotes. Prof. Bladen Zamande is going to be joining us, as well as Prof. Ntabasinga Gude, and we've got Zoe Bach, who will be presenting her scholar's poem again. So please join us. And for now, if you can please move into the foyer for the poster session and the networking. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's give all of our speakers a very warm round of applause, and especially our scholars. Thank you.